Revealed, the incredible journey of a mafia boss's hidden love that changed everything forever. Johnny Marino wiped the sweat from his brow as he leaned over the engine of a beat-up Chevy in his small auto repair shop. The garage smelled like oil and metal, familiar scents in his blue-collar world, where hard work was the currency of respect. At 34, Johnny took pride in his trade, but behind the grease and grime, his heart bore a secret that sent shivers down his spine. His father was a notorious mafia boss. When he received the call about his father's impending death, everything shattered. Chaos loomed, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like a puppet tied to strings he had desperately tried to cut. As he sat across from Lisa at the dinner table, trying to focus on Mia and Joey's laughter, tension was a thick fog hanging between them. Would he explain where he was headed? Or would he shield them from the darkness nesting in his blood? Johnny felt a knot in his stomach, trying to arrange the words, but all that came was silence. He knew going back to his past would mean stepping into a world filled with corrupt power and whispered secrets, a world where loyalty was a knife to the heart. That visit to the hospital unleashed memories he buried deep. The sterile smell of antiseptic turned his stomach. There, Johnny discovered his father's connection to Maria, the diner waitress with soft brown eyes, whose warmth wrapped around the community like a hug. She too was wrestling with her past, finding courage in adversity, yet bound by the complicated love she shared with a man steeped in darkness. Johnny felt drawn to her spirit, a beacon flickering in the storm engulfing his life. The neighborhood block party was in full swing, families laughing, children darting between games, and the aroma of fried dough wafting through the air. But amidst the joy, a whisper of scandal interrupted. As he stood with Joey on his shoulders, soaking in the laughter, he overheard something that sent ice through his veins. A conversation about betrayal hidden beneath layers of family loyalty and dark deeds, the truth behind his father's legacy. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. That moment of discovery was like a chain reaction, sending a wave of urgency through Johnny. He looked at the faces around him, the familiarity of their laughter, juxtaposed against the horror of what he now knew. How could he embrace his father's legacy when it threatened everything he loved? He stood frozen, caught between the seductive allure of power and the simple dignity of hard work, a decision weighing heavily on his soul. The laughter faded, tension crackled around him like electricity. In that pivotal moment, Johnny realized that he was not just fighting for himself but for Mia, Joey, and Lisa. As his heart raced, he found himself at a disturbing crossroad. Would he dare step deeper into the world his father had created, or would he break free from the shadows that stretched long behind him? The weight of his family's future hung in the balance, and the echoes of loyalty called him forth. Johnny felt his heart pounding in his chest, the laughter of Mia and Joey colliding with the crushing weight of his thoughts. The backyard party faded into the background, a blur of colors and sounds, while the reality of his father's sins wrapped tighter around him like a noose. He took a deep breath, determined to make a choice that would protect his family, yet uncertain of the true path ahead. As he ruffled Joey's hair and lifted him down from his shoulders, Johnny's mind swirled with questions. What did the whispers really mean? Would siding with the past lead him to betrayal, or could it be a chance for redemption? He caught Lisa's gaze across the yard. The worry etched on her face pulled at his heart. She was a light in the dark, guiding him away from the shadows that loomed just out of sight. "Daddy, can we play?" Mia's voice broke the tension, her bright eyes sparkling with innocent ambition. Her laughter was infectious, a reminder of the simple joys in life. He couldn't let their reality spiral into chaos. Not now, when everything felt so precarious. "Of course, sweetheart," he said, forcing a smile, as he took her tiny hand and led her to the makeshift games set up by their neighbors. The sounds of the party enveloped them again, and for a moment, he pretended that the shadows didn't exist. But as he watched Joey toss a ring onto a bottle, anxiety drummed relentlessly in his mind. Later that night, when the laughter had faded and the table was cleared, Johnny found himself on the porch with a glass of lemonade in hand. He couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was approaching. The quiet of the night felt like a countdown, every minute echoing the urgency of his decisions. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, breaking the peacefulness. It was an unknown number. Hesitantly, he answered, a tight knot forming in his stomach. Johnny Marino, a low voice greeted him, gravelly and familiar, sending a chill down his spine. Listen closely, the stranger continued, each word dripping with menace. Your father left a legacy, and it's not just about business. It's about power. If you want to protect your family, you need to come down to the docks tonight. The nerve endings in Johnny's body sparked with panic. What legacy? What power? The threads of his very identity were pulling him back into a life he had tried to flee. Closing his eyes, he pictured Mia, Joey, and Lisa, their laughter, their love. His blood ran cold as he balanced the phone in one hand, his other clenched tightly around the railing. He had sworn to keep them safe. But was there unresolved danger lurking in the shadows he couldn't see? Don't think too long, the voice warned before hanging up abruptly, leaving nothing but silence in the air. Johnny stared at the street below, dimly lit, the shadows of the trees stretching like fingers reaching for him. The choice loomed over him, unyielding and cold. Could he turn his back on his father's world for good? Or was this a path he couldn't escape? With the weight of the unknown pressing down on him, he realized there was no going back. He had to defend everything he loved, even if it meant stepping into the darkness. The docks beckoned, promises and dangers intertwined. Would he face his past to secure his future? Or would the pull of blood forever entrap him? As the night deepened, Johnny took a deep breath, knowing the answer lay ahead of him: step into the shadows or step away. In this fight, one thing was certain. The time for decisions was now. Johnny stood at the edge of the porch, wrestling with himself. The docks shimmered faintly in the distance, cloaked in darkness, but pulsing with a dangerous allure. Each heartbeat seemed like a reminder of what was at stake: his family, his peace, his very soul. He could almost hear the water lapping against the boats, whispering secrets he wasn't sure he wanted to uncover. Closing his eyes, he imagined Mia's carefree laughter and Joey's wide-eyed wonder. He could almost smell the barbecue lingering in the air, the remnants of a night spent in tiny moments of bliss. That was life he wanted for them, a life untouched by the sins of the past. But now the shadows were calling him, and he felt their grip tightening, unyielding. He took another deep breath, trying to summon courage. You've got to do this for them, he muttered, the words slipping from his lips. The sensation was heavy in his chest, like lifting a weight he wasn't sure he could bear. The decision had to be made, and he knew damned well there was pressure on the other side of that choice. Johnny stepped off the porch, the wooden planks creaking beneath his weight, each step resonating with the crunch of gravel beneath his feet as he walked toward his car. As he swung open the door, the quiet of the street enveloped him. He glanced back at his house, the soft light shining from inside and illuminating everything he loved. Deep down, he wished he could stay nestled in that cocoon of safety, but the clock was ticking. He couldn't ignore the call for much longer. The drive to the docks was a blur, the streetlights flickering past, casting erratic shadows on his face. His mind raced, conjuring faces and voices from a past he thought he had left behind: his father's thick accent, the way he commanded respect with a mere glance, the fear etched in the faces of those who owed him. Pulling into the dimly lit parking lot at the docks, Johnny parked his car and sat still for a moment, his heart hammering against his ribs. The air was thick with tension, an electric charge that promised confrontation. He could see figures moving in the shadows, their shapes indistinct, but their intent clear. Stepping out of the car, Johnny was enveloped by the salty breeze. The distant sounds of the ocean mixed with low voices, murmurs growing louder as he approached. Lights flickered from a nearby warehouse, illuminating a group gathered in a circle. A chill ran down his spine as he recognized some of them old associates of his father, faces he hadn't seen in years. "Johnny," one of them called out, a figure stepping forward, his smile wide but eerie. "Glad you could join us. We've been waiting." Johnny clenched his fists, fighting the urge to recoil. "I'm here. What do you want?" The group shifted, their eyes piercing through the growing darkness like daggers. "It's time you learned about your father's legacy and the power that comes with it," the man said, stepping closer with an unsettling calmness. "But first, we need to know where your loyalties lie." Fear bubbled beneath the surface, but Johnny's resolve solidified. He wasn't here to play games. He was here to protect his family, no matter the cost. "Loyalty?" he echoed, uneasy but defiant. "You mean to a past I'm trying to escape? I'm here for my family. If this is a threat to them," a sudden laugh cut through the tension. "Oh, it's far beyond threats, Johnny. This is about power. Your power." Johnny locked eyes with the man. The truth was slipping into view, cloaked in shadow and deception, and with it, a question that made his heart race. What was worth fighting for, and at what cost? As he stared into the darkness, both familiar and strange, Johnny felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. What would he choose? Would he uncover the truth of his father's legacy, or would it consume him whole? The night was heavy with uncertainty, the answers lurking just out of reach. Behind him, the lights of his home twinkled like stars against the encroaching night. Just then, a muffled cry echoed from the shadows, pulling him back to reality and making his heart drop. "Help!" It was Mia's voice, sharp and clear, echoing across the water. A jolt coursed through him as dread pooled in his stomach. His family, his life, everything he cared for suddenly felt at risk. At that moment, time fractured. Choices collided. The looming question was no longer about the legacy he inherited, but the family he was sworn to protect. As the cry reached his ears again, stronger and filled with fear, Johnny's world tilted. What awaited him in the darkness? Would he finally confront his past, or would he lose everything that mattered most? Johnny's heart raced as he stumbled backward, the tension gripping his chest. Panic surged through him like a tidal wave, and in that moment, everything else faded away: the old associates, the legacy, even the pulsating darkness around him. All that mattered was Mia. He turned on his heel, urgency propelling him forward as he raced towards the voice. The laughter that had once echoed in his mind was replaced by a sound laced with fear. It sliced through the night air, a desperate plea pulling him into a nightmare he thought he'd escaped. "Please, someone help." Each step quickened his pulse, fueled by parental instinct. The night felt alive, shadows dancing around him like specters of his past. He darted towards the water's edge, searching for any sign of her. The dim light of a nearby lamp flickered, revealing a scene that had the power to ground him or shatter his resolve completely. Up ahead, he spotted a small figure silhouetted against the dock, fear etched into her tiny frame. Joey was clinging to Mia, who was crying and shaking, her hair disheveled. They had wandered too close to the water's edge. "Mia! Joey!" Johnny's voice roared out over the waves, desperation coloring his tone. His children turned, wide-eyed. Their fear flooded back into him, driving him onward. He sprinted towards them, flashing back to the warmth of their home, the laughter, the peace he fought to keep. As he reached them, he fell to his knees, pulling Mia into his arms while keeping Joey close. "What happened? Are you okay?" he panted, scanning them for any signs of injury. "Daddy, there were guys. They scared us." Mia stammered, her voice quaking. Johnny's blood turned cold. "What do you mean, guys? Who?" The darkness around him suddenly felt 10 times more menacing. His mind flashed to the group at the warehouse. Had they come for his family? "There, they were over there." Joey pointed towards the shadows, his little hand trembling. "They said they wanted to play, but it wasn't nice. We were scared, and then I saw you." "Stay close to me," Johnny said, standing protectively in front of them with his fists clenched. Mia looked up, fear still in her eyes, but there was something else, an unspoken understanding of the danger they were in. "Daddy," they said. She hesitated, and Johnny sensed the weight of her words.
"Don't worry about what they said.
Just tell me. What did they want?" "They wanted you to come back to them," she whispered, trembling against him. "Back to them?" His jaw tightened. They knew he was a part of something he wanted to leave behind. They targeted his children, using them as bait. Without thinking, Johnny's instincts kicked in. "We can't stay here. We need to go.
Now."
He led his children back towards the car, the idyllic light of home now replaced by the looming threat of shadows behind them. "Oh, Johnny!" A voice called from the darkness. The eerie figure from earlier emerged, his presence unfurling like a quiet storm. "You can't run from this. It's your blood that calls to you." Johnny stepped forward, holding his children tighter, his eyes narrowing with resolve.
"Stay away from them,"
he shouted. The stranger smirked, unfazed. "You cannot protect what you don't understand. Your father's legacy will find you, one way or another." Johnny's heart pounded. He felt that familiar tug of the past, the weight of a name that threatened to drown him. As they reached the car, he turned to Mia and Joey.
"Get in. Now."
The urgency in his voice quelled their hesitations. They scrambled inside, and he followed, glancing back at the figures emerging from the darkness. Before he could rev the engine, a cold dread twisted in his gut. The threat wasn't just from the figures lurking at the dock. The legacy, his father's legacy, had come rushing back into his life. Would it silence the love he had worked so hard to create? As he peeled out of the parking lot, the headlights illuminated the retreating figures behind them. The world beyond the car was cruel and unyielding, filled with old sins and new threats. Johnny couldn't let fear rule him, not when it meant losing what mattered most. But how far was he willing to go to protect Mia and Joey from a legacy he never wanted? Suddenly, the car's radio crackled to life, a haunting message slicing through the static. "Johnny, you can't escape your fate." His heart dropped. The darkness wasn't finished with him yet. What other shadows were waiting just beyond reach? Would he stand and fight, or would he be forever haunted by the choices he had yet to make? The engine roared to life, the sound almost drowning out Johnny's racing thoughts. He took a quick glance at his children, their faces pale and frightened. Mia clutched Joey's hand, her thumb absently rubbing his knuckles for comfort. He could feel the air thick with their anguish, wrapping around him like a tight shroud. "Just keep your eyes on me," he said, the words spilling out like a promise. He shifted the car into gear and accelerated away from the dock, the dark silhouettes receding in the rearview mirror. But the shadows lingered, haunting him. "Daddy, are they coming after us?" Joey asked, his voice trembling, breaking through the silence hanging heavy in the car. Johnny glanced at the road ahead, determined to keep his eyes forward. "No, buddy. Not if we stay strong." The lie seemed to float between them, heavy with the untruth of it. Mia's gaze darted around as if the world outside was crawling with dangers.
"But they said they wanted you."
"What do they mean?" She looked straight at him, her eyes like a mirror reflecting his fears. His chest tightened. "They're just trying to scare us. They know I took a different path." He tried to maintain a calm demeanor, but deep down, he felt the icy grip of dread clenched tighter. His past was folding back into his present, intertwining with the love he felt for his children. "Do we have to go home?" Joey asked, his little face crumpling with worry. "No, we're going to find a safe place," Johnny replied, pressing the gas pedal harder. The asphalt beneath the tires blurred by, and their suburban neighborhood seemed to dissolve into nothingness kindled by his panic. The radio clicked on again, static crackling like nails on a chalkboard. "Johnny, you can run, but you cannot hide. The truth will find you." He slammed his fist against the steering wheel, adrenaline surging through him. "Shut up," he barked, wishing he could smash the whole thing to pieces. Anger flooded him, directed at that unfamiliar voice and at himself too. How had he let this happen? Mia's voice broke through his concentration. "Daddy, I'm scared." Her plea was small but echoed loudly inside the car. It wrapped around his heart, twisting like a vice. He turned to her quickly, swallowing the overwhelming wave of regret. I know, honey, but we've got each other, and we're going to be okay. I promise. But his own words lacked conviction. They drove deeper into the night, past flickering streetlights that cast odd shadows across the road. Johnny fought to keep his mind clear, but found himself reliving brutal memories, moments he thought he had buried. Faces flashed old mentors, broken oaths, choices that sealed paths he never wanted to walk again. As he glided over a bridge, the universe quieted, almost still. It felt too calm, and he realized that silence was often ominous. They were leaving home behind, but at what cost? His stomach twisted. Mia, Joey, he said, forcing a smile. We're going to go see Grandma for the night. Okay? She'll make everything better. The words felt hopeful, yet hollow. What if they go to Grandma's? Joey asked, back to biting his nails. Johnny clenched his jaw. They won tea. He reached back, holding Joey's small hand through the seat. Trust me. But how could he ask them to trust him when he had failed to protect them already? A rush of guilt poured through him. As they neared Grandma's house, the darkness seemed to pulse with every heartbeat, the silence insisting on holding its breath. He pulled into the driveway and parked, his heart crashing against his ribs. The home looked safe. It had always been a refuge. But as he stepped out of the car, burdened with dread, he realized there was no turning back. The past would follow him, slipping through his fingers like sand. Suddenly, the sound of gravel crunching underfoot drew his attention. He turned. A figure lurked at the edge of the driveway, silhouetted against the porch light. It was too familiar, too close. The figure stepped forward, revealing a smirk he couldn't bear to see.
Johnny.
Welcome home. His breath hitched as fear coiled in his stomach. What did
This mean?
With his children close behind him, he realized that standing against his past was no longer an option. The fight was here. What had he brought them into? Johnny's heart pounded as he considered one faint possibility. Could he still protect his kids? But at what price? The future loomed uncertain, fogged in fear and forces greater than blood. Would he bow to the family he distanced himself from, or stand firm and fight? With the weight of the moment pressing on him, he stepped closer, determination blazing in his chest. What do you want? And the darkness around him seemed ready to answer. Johnny's heart raced, the figure's smirk carving deeper lines of dread into his consciousness. An eerie silence wrapped around them, soaking up the familiar sounds of the night, the cricket's song, the rustling leaves. Only the rising tension in the air hummed audibly, a warning clanging in his ears. What do you want? He repeated, forcing the words through gritted teeth. He couldn't show weakness. He couldn't let his children see the panic that clawed at his insides. You know why I'm here, the figure replied, stepping fully into the light. A face from a lifetime ago, Vinny, twisted and grinning, a memory he thought he'd buried. No, Johnny said, shaking his head as if he could erase Vinny with sheer force of will. I didn't have anything to do with that anymore. I left. Vinny stepped closer, eyes cold yet alive with mischief. You might have left, Johnny, but you can't escape your blood. They've come looking, and you've dangled a juicy bait in front of their eyes. Get away from my kids, Johnny growled, tension rippling through his body as adrenaline surged. He felt like a lion backed against a wall, his instincts screaming to defend his cubs. Mia clutched Joey tightly, her face pale. Daddy, who is he? What does he mean? A heaviness settled on Johnny's chest. He turned to them, their innocent eyes filled with confusion, his heart shattering a little more. Stay close, he warned, moving between them and Vinny. Ah, family. Vinny's voice dripped with sarcasm. That's the crux of it all. You think running will keep them safe? You're not just in this for yourself anymore. Johnny's mind raced. There was so much left unsaid, so many lies he had woven to shield his children. But now, standing here, he felt the walls closing in. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Vinny chuckled, eyes glinting. You think mere distance can sever family ties? We have a way of finding our own, Johnny. Enough! Johnny shouted, clenching his fists at his sides. The last thing he needed was to let his children hear more of this twisted game. He wanted to shield them from the darkness that loomed, but he knew it was already creeping in. Someone watched you leave, Vinny continued, tone low and conspiratorial. They've got a score to settle. You think you can protect them from the past when it's already clawing at your doorstep? A chill swept through Johnny, the air electric with anxiety. He'd made a choice years ago, clean slate, new life. But here it was, the truth surging back with a vengeance. What do you want? Johnny asked again, resolve flickering. Vinny's expression morphed from arrogance to something calculating. I'm here to offer you a choice. You know how family works. You can either stand beside them in the shadows or watch them drown in them. Johnny felt a sickening twist in his stomach. How could he make a choice between those he loved and the monster his past had turned into? I want to let you hurt them, he said fiercely, a hint of fear edged with determination. Then you'd better start reconsidering how strong you really are, Vinny sneered. Because they're not the only things I can reach. The air thickened with danger, and a sound cut through the tension, a siren in the distance. It grew louder, and in that moment, Johnny felt a crack forming in his protective shell.
Daddy!
Mia cried, eyes wide. The sirens grew nearer, and the weight of the moment crashed down on him. In that heartbeat, everything shifted. Johnny realized he had no more time to waste. If Vinny was here, the clock was ticking, and his family's safety was hanging on a thread. But how to respond? Run, he whispered to Mia and Joey, seeming to breathe courage into the words. Run, and don't look back. Before he could register the gravity of his decision, he moved, confronting Vinny head-on, fueled by the love and protectiveness coursing through his veins, ready to face the storm head-on. But the truth loomed like a gathering storm, and Johnny couldn't shake the feeling that this fight was just the beginning. As echoes of the sirens approached, a chilling laugh lingered. In the air, what was waiting for them on the other side of this unraveling confrontation? Let us see how this plays out, Johnny, Vinny taunted. The night felt vast, filled with shadows and uncertainty. Could he protect his kids from a past that had its claws deep in their lives? Johnny took a deep breath, heart pounding like a war drum as he squared his shoulders. There was no way out but forward, into the fray. What price would he pay to save his family? The sirens wailed closer, a piercing reminder that time was slipping away. Johnny felt every second drip like cold sweat off his brow. He threw a quick glance back at Mia and Joey, their young faces painted with fear, yet hopeful they'd be shielded.
Go!
He shouted, voice cracking with urgency. The instinct to protect was primal, coursing through him like wildfire. But Vinny laughed at the command, an unsettling sound that grated against Johnny's ears. Do you really think they can just run from what's coming? They'll be drawn back faster than you can blink, Johnny. Johnny squared his jaw, unable to back down.
Don't you touch them.
His legs felt heavy, but he planted them firmly in front of his children. The lion ready to defend its pride. Vinny took a step forward, his smirk widening. Are you ready to die for them? Then? The words dripped malice, a challenge Johnny couldn't ignore. His heart raced, anger bubbling inside him. Mia grasped Joey tighter, her voice trembling. Daddy, just go. Johnny shouted again, the energy bursting from his throat like a flare in the dark. Then, a loud crash echoed in the distance, drowning out their voices. A car skidded to a halt down the road, brake lights glaring like fireflies caught in a panic. Johnny's irate gaze shifted. Was this help, or did it just make things worse? Vinny's eyes glimmered like knives, sensing the shift. Looks like your friends are arriving, he teased, mocking. Johnny! A voice shouted from the vehicle. It was Rick, his old friend from the past, one who had shared in the shadows of their history. Relief flooded through Johnny, but with it came apprehension. Would Rick be able to handle this? Get them out of here, Johnny cried, urgency stressing his commands.
Now!
Rick jumped out, eyes darting to the scene unfolding. What the hell is going on? I said get them to safety. Johnny ordered, never tearing his gaze from Vinny S. Time was racing, and every second counted. Vinny took another deliberate step, testing the boundaries, laughter mixing with the sound of the approaching wail of police sirens. You think they'll be safe anywhere? You're shackling them to your past, trying to save them from it. Shut up. Johnny spat. You think you hold the cards, Vinny? You don't know who I am anymore. Oh, but I do, Vinny sneered, hiding a dark satisfaction that sent chills down Johnny's spine. I know your blood runs thick, and your fears. Oh, they're just beginning. This isn't just about you, it's about them, too. With fierce resolve, Johnny turned back to Mia and Joey. To the car.
Now.
Mia's legs trembled, but she pulled Joey along, following Johnny's command, fear etched into her young features. Another siren blared, but this time it was joined by multiple voices, a chaos of urgency that promised police involvement. I'll be right behind you, Johnny shouted, letting adrenaline spill into his voice. He could feel Vinny closing in. There was no time for regrets. What will you do, Johnny? Vinny whispered, a coiling threat in his tone. Face the music or let your kids face it alone. Johnny didn't answer. He pushed through the storm, adrenaline igniting every nerve as he rushed forward, ready to confront the embodiment of his past. The police were closer, yet a sinking feeling gnawed at him. What if they couldn't stop Vinny? What if he could slip away and haunt them again? Out of instinct, Johnny lunged toward Vinny, fists clenched, in a moment of raw defiance. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about his family, about breaking free from the chains of a life that threatened to drag them all down. As the police lights began to flash, illuminating the darkened street, Johnny felt a swell of hope clash with the shadows of dread tightening around him. Could he truly fight the ties that bind? Would the police arrive in time to prevent the past from consuming his family? As Johnny readied for confrontation, a simple thought echoed louder than all others: was he strong enough to pull them through the storm? In that moment, as he faced Vinny, the question loomed larger than ever. What would be the cost of freedom? Johnny's heart pounded in his chest, hammering against his ribs like a desperate prisoner. He narrowed his eyes on Vinny, determined not to show any weakness. This was it. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, and he wouldn't let Vinny's taunts break him. Get them to the car, Rick yelled, his voice sharp as a gunshot, echoing across the chaos. He rushed towards Mia and Joey, urgency in every stride, eyes wild with worry. Don't let him get inside your head, Johnny, Rick shouted over his shoulder, trying to split Vinny's influence from Johnny's resolve. Rick's presence was a fleeting but familiar anchor. The faint hum of the police sirens grew louder, blending into a cacophony that made Johnny's pulse quicken. He could see officers in the distance, their silhouettes pulling sharpened shapes against the flashing lights. It was now or never. Your kids are running from their past, just like you, Vinny crooned, taking another step closer, dismissing Rick's hurried attempts to mobilize the children. But they can't escape what's in their blood. You might have forgotten, but I haven't. Johnny shook his head, refusing to accept the weight of those words. He could feel something shift within him. Fear was always a choice, but love was a fire that burned to keep moving forward. He stepped closer, fists clenching tighter. I won't let you hurt them. Amid the blinding lights of the police vehicles now surrounding them, Johnny stood as a bulwark against Vinny's darkness. With each heartbeat, he drew strength from the love he felt for Mia and Joey, the laughter they shared, the small moments that filled his days with warmth. Memories flashed vividly in his mind: Mia's first day of school, Joey's goofy grin during pizza night, their sleepy cuddles on stormy evenings. Vinny scoffed, crossing his arms. Love doesn't protect them. Love can turn to ash in an instant. Maybe, Johnny said, his voice steady, but it can also light the way out of the dark. With a sudden rush of courage, he lunged forward. A twist of bodies, a clash of intentions. The moment cracked like thunder. Johnny felt Vinny's fist connect with his jaw, pain blooming in a brilliant shockwave. Johnny staggered but steadied himself, forcing the agony down. He had to keep fighting. He couldn't afford to allow pain to define this moment. Across the street, he caught a glimpse of Mia, her small figure dragging Joey towards the car, tears streaming down her cheeks.
Daddy.
She called out, trembling but resolute. The sight twisted something deep inside him. The fight had to end here. Get in the car, Johnny shouted, forcing himself to focus on Vinny, whose mocking grin faltered for a moment, revealing a flicker of rage. As the police swarmed closer, he could hear shouts, orders barked in the air, but they felt distant. His world narrowed to a single point: protecting his children. He could no longer rely on the past to guide his actions. It was time to embrace the future. With renewed vigor, he threw a roundhouse punch that connected with Vinny's side, sending him stumbling back. And just like that, amidst the storm of chaos, clarity filled Johnny's mind. This was not just a fight with Vinny. This was the chance to wrestle a new life into being. Every ounce of his being urged him to break free of the chains of yesterday. As Vinny regained his footing, Johnny clenched his jaw. You don't own me, Vinny. Not anymore. But just as Johnny prepared for the next blow, a piercing scream broke through the tension like glass shattering. It wasn't from Vinny. It was Mia's voice, full of terror.
Daddy.
Instinctively, Johnny whipped around, and the world exploded into a blur of flashing lights and too many voices. Would he get to them in time? In that moment, doubt threatened to overtake him. What if Vinny wasn't the only danger? What if his past had already caught up with them? As he turned back to Vinny, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead, one question loomed larger than the rest. Would he be able to protect his family when it mattered most? Johnny stood at the precipice of everything he fought for, the darkness swirling around him, threatening to engulf them all. Could a single spark of love illuminate the path to safety? The sirens wailed on, and he was left wondering, what next? Johnny felt his heart drop as he heard Mia's cry. It sliced through the chaos like a knife, each syllable ripping at his resolve. He turned, desperate, searching for any sign of his children. In that fleeting moment, every ounce of bravery threatened to scatter like leaves in a windstorm. Mia, he called out, scanning the frantic scene around him. Rick was attempting to shield the kids from the thrumming tide of police officers and onlookers, but the crowd was closing in like a hungry beast. Vinny sneered, taking advantage of Johnny's distraction. Look who's distracted. Vinny taunted, his voice dripping with menace. Your precious little family is about to witness their father fail. Johnny couldn't afford to look back at Vinny now, not when Mia and Joey were so close yet felt so far. He pushed past any lingering fears. The officers were shouting now, ordering people to back away, but Johnny's world narrowed down to only one thing: his kids. Come on, let us go, Rick urged, his voice strained, as he gestured for Mia and Joey to get in the car. Johnny couldn't bear to think of what might happen if Vinny got closer. In a panic, Johnny charged, ready to fight off whatever darkness Vinny wanted to unleash. With each step, adrenaline surged through him, propelling him forward. This wasn't just a fight. It was a declaration of his determination to protect his family. Johnny hurled himself toward Vinny, connecting with him again, another punch landing solidly. The two men crashed to the pavement, fists flying, sweat and blood mingling in the air, while police rushed to maintain order. Just then, Rick's voice cut through the noise, sharp and articulate. We need to get out of here. Somebody help. He was urgently waving his hands, trying to catch the attention of the officers around them. The moment hung precariously, the echoes of violence mounting. Johnny connected another strike, but Vinny's face twisted into a sinister grin. You can't escape who you are, Johnny. You think you've changed, but that darkness is always lurking. Johnny's breath hitched in his throat, anger bubbling inside him. Not anymore. I'm not that man. He pushed with all his might, forcing the memories of a painful past to fade into the backdrop. He was stronger now, not just for himself, but for Mia and Joey. Then, with a sickening crack, Vinny threw a desperate blow, catching Johnny off guard and sending him sprawling to the ground. Pain surged through Johnny, but he rolled over quickly, scrambling back to a standing position, lightning speed determination coursing through him. "Daddy, help!" The terror in Mia's voice sliced through the haze. He dashed toward her, his body moving instinctively. Johnny was close enough now. He could see her wide, terrified eyes. Joey clung to her, both of them looking stricken, trying to comprehend the chaos swirling around them. "Get in the car," Johnny yelled, refusing to let fear consume him. The police were separating the crowd, but the tension thick and heavy still loomed. Mia took a step back. "But Daddy, you know." Johnny's words came out sharp, filled with urgency. "I will be fine. Just get in the car. Please." He was met with a deafening silence. Then he noticed the glint of something metallic in Vinny's hand. A knife, gleaming menacingly under the strobe of police lights. Anger surged like a tide within Johnny, and as the cops continued to approach, a powerful resolve crystallized in him. "I will protect you," Johnny shouted, charging toward Vinny one last time, knowing this was a defining moment. With the darkness clinging tightly to his past, he ventured into the fight, ready to shatter the shadows once and for all. But just as he lunged forward, a deafening crash erupted from the nearby street, a sudden distraction ripping through everything. Wheels screeched, metal clashed, something colossal was about to change everything. Johnny froze, his heart racing as panic shot through him. What had just happened? What new danger loomed around the corner? As the dust began to settle, a quiet voice echoed within him. Would this finally be the moment that would define the fight for their lives? Johnny's heart thundered in his chest, the sound drowning everything else out. The chaotic energy of the moment, the fear radiating from Mia and Joey, mixed with the visceral threat of Vinny, made his mind spin. He felt grace slipping through his fingers, and the urgency to act surged like fire in his veins. In seconds, he grappled with the ever-present question, what would it take to save them? Suddenly, the ear-splitting crash behind him jolted him out of his spiraling thoughts. He turned just in time to see an unmarked police van veer off the road, smoke billowing from its crumpled front end as it slammed into the curb. The horrified shouts of officers erupted around him, and the sight was both shocking and strangely compelling, an opportunity wrapped in chaos. "Over there!" an officer shouted, pointing toward the wreck, the sound directing a new wave of attention. The police, momentarily diverted, swarmed around the van like ants to sugar. But Johnny's instincts flared. This was his chance. His gaze snapped back to his children. "Get in the car." He bellowed again, urgency sharpening every syllable. He couldn't lose his window of opportunity. With trembling hands, Mia clutched Joey tightly, and both scrambled into the back seat of the car. He could see fear etched across their young faces, yet a glimmer of trust in their eyes, a reminder of family love, giving him strength. Their trust ignited a fire of determination in him, purging the clenching fear that had encased him. "Go, go, go," he shouted, watching their small forms disappear into the sanctuary of the vehicle. Fear and love intertwined to form an indomitable shield around him. As Mia buckled Joey in, her eyes darting back to him, he offered her a nod, an unspoken promise that he would return. Vinny's menacing figure loomed closer, sneering with the inevitability of darkness. "You can't run, Johnny," he taunted, slinking closer, the knife gleaming, a horrifying reminder of the threat he posed not just to Johnny, but to his family. With the sirens echoing, Johnny felt a surge of adrenaline. There was no time for hesitation. He surged forward, ready for one last push. "Stay in the car," he roared, charging at Vinny with all the force he could muster. With a swift movement, he tackled the man, sending them both crashing to the ground. The connection rattled through him, but he couldn't relent. The determination to fight for his family fueled each punch. He focused all his energy on Vinny, feeling the weight of years of shame slip away with every decisive blow. "Let us see how strong you really are," Vinny grunted, struggling to gain the upper hand, but Johnny had been forged in fire by love. Just as he began to overwhelm the man, he glanced back, catching sight of Mia's eyes through the car windows, wide with fear but filled with unwavering support. She believed in him. He lunged harder, the fury of a father igniting with every punch, each strike manifesting his commitment to keep them safe. The knife clattered to the ground, lost in the shuffle of bodies, and in that moment, he knew he had to make this count. With a powerful surge, he pinned Vinny down, the man's breath coming in gurgling gasps. "You have no idea what it means to have a family. You don't intimidate me. I'm done living in your shadow." Johnny's voice roared with newfound clarity. Lightning flashed, illuminating the dark corners of his past, and he felt stronger than ever. The police, attention finally diverted back to the two grappling figures on the ground, began to come forward, but before they could reach him, Johnny made a choice. He propelled himself back, allowing the officers to take over, a sense of relief washing through him. "Arrest him," he shouted, gesturing toward Vinny. "He won't stop until you do." The officers moved with urgency, pulling Vinny away with handcuffs of authority, the chaos around them increasingly diffused. Johnny shot a worried glance back at his children, who were now peeking through the car windows. Their worried faces were still, yet visible determination made Johnny's heart swell. Suddenly, the chaos faded. Sirens began to quiet, replaced by the comforting sound of the officers addressing the situation. The darkness that once loomed felt less threatening now, and it seemed like the shadows were receding. As he stepped back, steadying himself from the intensity of the struggle, he felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He had confronted his demons, transformed his fear into a weapon, and fought for something more than blood, a family bound by love rather than a legacy cloaked in shadows. "Daddy!" Mia squealed, her voice shaking with relief as she tumbled out of the car, rushing to wrap her arms around him. Joey followed suit, clinging tightly. Their warmth enveloped him, a tangle of joy and love that was indescribable. "I'm so proud of you," Mia exclaimed, shining with innocence and admiration. As he held his children, the weight of the night lifted. Johnny could finally breathe, letting the air fill his lungs with possibility. "Let us go home," he whispered, his heart full of hope in a future unearthed from the darkness that had once threatened to consume them. No legacy could overpower this love. And as they walked away, side by side, laughter with joy ringing in the air, Johnny dared to believe that maybe the dawn would break over their lives once again. Sometimes facing the shadows was the only way to let the light shine through. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. If you enjoyed this ending, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Comment your reactions below. I want to know how you felt about Johnny's journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.